All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We're going to spend a little bit of time today discussing events. As I work through some of these sections on building events, I'm going to go through the first event I'm going to demonstrate, or we'll kind of discuss, is an event not for registration. So this is a great way to think about putting in your frequent flyer events, such as your leaders council meetings, or maybe you have a horse leaders meeting, some time of any kind of meeting where it's recurring, something that will give you items to populate on your calendar as the new year's getting started. And then we'll also discuss events for registration, and then kind of work through any of the questions y'all may have creating your different events. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So when you go to the events tab to create an event, it's going to default to an event that requires registration. And to make it to where it's an event that does not require registration, just simply scroll down, uncheck the box, registration is required. And what you will be left with is a very cursory event component. So you're go from 5 tabs down to 2 tabs, and it's basically the main event parameters and your email settings. And so where I'm at, and if you have questions after this training, what I'm going to be walking through and demonstrating, I will keep these test events in the demo county, so you all should have that. I'll actually go through what that login is. So instead of logging in to your individual account, you go to the demonstration county admin account, which is ardemo@countyadmin.com. And the password is test, and it's all lowercase. So these templates and kind of what we're going to be talking about, these just test events, if you will, those will be here. That's not going to go anywhere. If it is a later date and you have questions on what we kind of covered and what that looks like, you may need to toggle show past events for that item to appear. And there's other hypothetical or test account events, I should say, that have been created. So it's just a matter of searching for it. But I'm going to create a new event, and I'm going to call this Erica test event, no registration. Toggle our button off. And I'm going to also put this 2023. Sometimes that makes it show up on the list a little bit easier. So as with any of your events, this event description gives you the lay of the land for the event. You have some text formatting options. If you just click the A with the 3 dots, you can change your font size, you can change your font color, you can add a background color. You can also bold the font, italicize, underline. You can also include a hyperlink. So if you have a lot of information that maybe you cross-advertise on your website, or there's resource materials that you need folks to check out, that is a great way to put that in there. But as with any event, you want to describe the event. Since this is a non-registration event, describe who this is for, meaning your audience. So, in this example, maybe it's a meeting. Maybe we're going to do, let's see here. trying to find a picture. So in your description, who, what, when, where, why, and how is the average, or is the general rule of thumb. I do not think that there is I have not maxed out the amount of characters on this. So and then like I said, it'll include a hyperlink here for you. And then as with your events for registration, you have the option to say all day on the event, or you can specify your start time and your end time. One thing with this tool, you're going to want to make sure you use this versus typing in. Sometimes I found that if you type in the date versus selecting it, sometimes you'll notice that your event spans 3 days and it's not a 3-day event, or you have a really weird end time. So 6 o'clock will be our start time for this event. And let's say it ends tonight. Oh, why did I do that? 6 o'clock. Six o'clock tomorrow. The meeting will be tomorrow. And verify. We're going to set end date November 7th, end meeting time 7 o'clock. All right. Anywhere where you have your text prompt. So what will be used if somebody is researching, or also what appears in the little capture, if you will, on the calendar. It'll give you a preview of the location, what the event name is. In your bigger advertising that household or your volunteers may see, they'll actually get the image, they'll get more information. But any of the information you can provide as far as location, we're going to make this a countywide event, Clover County Extension Office. And then also the contact information will advertise as well. So just enter in phone number. And then any of your events, for the most part, short-term special interest, but your other parameters may apply if it's a day camping event or so forth. Maybe you're doing an open house, so that's more of a special interest short-term event. And then the nice thing also, you can drag and drop promo materials, or maybe you have a flyer, PDF file is what you're going to want to use. For those uploads, and it'll show as an attachment. And then once you have, and your email settings. So if this is something where it's a Leaders Council, Livestock Council event, you'll your email when you're logging in should default to this, but if you need to add somebody else in your office as a secondary touch point for any correspondence that comes in, you can go ahead and add their email address, and that's how you kind of share that correspondence. But you have all your information in this particular event ready, then you want to make sure you publish. And so then you have your event. If this isn't a recurring, let's say you have a monthly meeting, and right now we don't have the ability to do a recurring meeting component. I do believe that that's on the development list, but the easiest way now that we have as far as making those recurring events happen is to duplicate the event. So we're going to call this December test. Now, as with anything that's duplicated, the biggie, as always, is going to be checking your parameters. So in this case, this is a non-registration event, but we're going to definitely have to edit the date, time. Maybe there's a change in the location. So we'll go ahead and then we just simply click edit the event. All of the verbiage that you set forward in that original event, including the image, even the additional information that we attached, all of that persists. The biggie is just making sure your dates are reflected. Let's say that that meeting's going to be at the fairgrounds, and that's not going to start until 7 o'clock on the 9th. And verify December 9th, 8 o'clock. Oh, 8 o'clock p.m. We're going to do this at the Clover County Fairgrounds. And then your information carries forward, as does your email setting. So if you have all of the information that you need captured in that first event, that's the critical piece as far as who needs to be looped in on the communication, whatever support materials you want to add. You can do that. You can still, even if there's major changes to like the support materials, maybe you are doing a bylaws review, you could put in the bylaws and then, have the follow-up meeting without that attachment. You have a lot of options to, move or add or change whatever information you need to include into that particular event. But we're going to go ahead and publish that. And then once your items are green, so then you'll start having those items populate on your calendar for your volunteers. So the sooner that you get your yearly content in there, or whatever items you're going to be doing as a lead in to launching your 4-H year, maybe your county does an open house, that kind of content goes a long way in helping your families plan. Also helps out with attendance. And then when they do, we'll go into a household here just so you can see what that looks like. So when they're viewing events, then those items start showing up. And like I said, your descriptors, whatever you include as far as information, all of that will carry forward in the larger event advertisement. But then on your dashboard, should go into a household, into a club volunteers dashboard. they have a little their home screen. It gives an event preview as well. So any questions so far on non-registration events?
So Erica, the reason to do a non-registration event is really just to get the event on a calendar.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for save the date. Maybe you're way in advance. Maybe the location's going to change. Maybe you're still working out the logistics on the date, perhaps the location, but you know that the event is going to maybe happen in February or March. It just helps get those dates out there. Now, it's the calendar and these non-registration events are a great way. Like if you have monthly leaders council meetings, perhaps a monthly horse leaders meeting, or even if they're bi-monthly or something. It gets the dates out there. It's just another way to reinforce items that are coming up, and then another visual reminder. You can, if you do a lot of your promotion, perhaps you have a Facebook group, you can always hyperlink in that Facebook group as the touch point, or where you want to engage into broader discussion on that event, or however you communicate with folks. You can also cross advertise in your newsletter. There's a lot of different flexibility on that, but yeah, the crux on this non-registration component, great way to advertise. Items don't require registration. Get the items on the calendar, promotion, and just making people aware of what's going on. So I would, as an example, would advertise, we would do leaders council meetings and livestock meetings the same night. Horse leader would be a different night of the week, but those were once a month. And so for new leaders or new people not sure how those meetings go, putting that on the calendar, they're open for folks to engage in, come. That helps them understand, okay, this is what's going on. Maybe they have an evening that they can join in and actually engage in that. So it helps. Or if you offer a virtual participation, sometimes maybe they can't come and join the meeting per se, but they could be there virtually. So you have some flexibility with that. But any other questions on the non-registration piece?
Can they be turned into a registration event at a later date, like be edited?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So then let's go back to events tab. So let's say this one's going to turn into, the December test meeting is going to turn into registration. As soon as you check registration required, you'll notice a whole lot of information starts to show up below, but then you get all of your tabs to appear. So absolutely, those non-event pieces, maybe it starts out that way, but you can certainly update that and make it a registration event. But I'm going to do a different one for that. So registration. Any other questions before I move into a registration event?
Well, I have to apologize. I may have missed something, but I did a quick test event and I put a graphic in there, but it didn't show up when I was looking at the list of events. How did you get the graphic to show up?
I uploaded a JPEG.
Oh, you had to do it down there.
Oh, not on the bottom part. I selected my event image. I think I'm not sure what the parameters are as far as image size, but as long as you've got a JPEG, you should be able to have that. And then let's see, save as draft. Oh, I have to add my date parameters, but did you have your event set up to where you had some basic information saved?
Well, yeah, I've got like a little spiel. I got the event names, the time. Let me see. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, I don't know. Well, let's continue on.
Okay, I'm not sure if there's a restriction like on how big your image needs to be as far as pixels by pixels. But as long as it's in a JPEG format, I think PNG formats are okay, but a JPEG format usually works. And in order to save a draft, you have to have at least a start and an end. But on your preview, the thumbnail picture should come through if the picture's in an acceptable format and you're able to save that. Now, items that are in a draft will not show up until it's actually published. So if the event is just a rough draft and hasn't been fully published, it won't show up for like as a thumbnail or like on the volunteers dashboard, if you will. So
I have a
okay.
question,
Oh, sure.
and you may be going to cover this, but Erica, my question was, if I'm using the event, does it automatically put it on the calendar, or do I have to put them on the calendar and make an event?
What populates on the calendar is based off the event. So there isn't once your item is published, so moving that from a draft to an actual published event, that is what will put that on the calendar. There isn't an additional piece that you have to do as far as making the event and having that appear. So, and then items that are created at the county level will show up as a goldenrod color. Items that are created at the state level are going to show up as a red. And then if there's items that are populating on the calendar that are generated from a club volunteer announcing their meetings per se, that will show up as a green. But great question. So for the items that require an event registration, first off, be mindful of the event in itself. The nice thing with y'all doing enrollment is that allows you to break down your event registration and focus on the questions you need to ask specific to that event. You're not having to ask their name, with the exception if you're opening up an event to external participants, but there's all of that information we're gathering at the time of enrollment. It allows you to bypass a lot of time in building that event registration packet, if you will. You can confirm. I guess a couple of things that you need to consider is the type of event. Is it a day camp? What are we needing to accomplish with the event registration? Are we doing an overnight camp? Because that has usually its own set of questions, own set of documents, a whole different line of questioning, if you will, as far as permissions to provide over-the-counter medications and so forth. So you really get down to the meat and potatoes of what you want to accomplish. There's a couple different ways that you can charge for fees, and so we'll kind of walk through that. But I guess the biggie on creating your events, especially first time out, take that due diligence time and create your event registrations ahead. Build them, kind of work through that process of building the event. Make sure you're providing yourself enough lead time. If it's an event that's going to happen perhaps January, February, there's no, get those open as soon as possible. So that way you have a good registration window, but then also give yourself enough time to build it. It takes a little bit of time to create these, and especially if you have a lot of information going into the registration form section itself. You want to make sure you save. That way your information does get saved. I've gone through a couple different events at different times, and for whatever reason, I forget to hit save, and then I lose all of that work. And so I'm a fan of over saving, but and then just kind of making sure that you look through, like if you're working off of a paper-based packet for perhaps the event that you did last year or for a few years ago, go through and you can kind of delineate, okay, what's captured in the enrollment side? Do we need to ask that question? A lot of information you need to capture for an external participant, but you know, you build that information out, and you can have registration fields that are visible just for that line of, or for those types of registrants. So again, with your event description, who, what, when, where. If I can type today. You can set if the event is all day. Too far down. You want to set your start time. So this event is going to be in January, and then we want to set our end time. So we're going to have that event end in the afternoon. And we're going to have this at the Clover County Extension Office. And all of this goes into the advertising. So a couple different options. Okay, if registration is required, so then, okay, you have to fill out this registration form to attend. If volunteers are going to register, you're going to want to make that box checked. Otherwise, the event won't show for your volunteers. If enrollment is required, then that means it's internal to 4-H participants. If you want the event to show up for 4-H participants and also to allow folks who do not have a ZSuite account to register, then you would want to check the box, allow participants without a ZSuite account to register. But for this example, what we're going to do is enrollment required. We're going to have a $5 entry fee. So you notice here, as soon as I entered in a dollar amount, if it's for free, nothing will show up. If you enter in a dollar amount, if you enter in your fee, then you have the option of online payments only, or you can disable online payments if you want them to pay in person. But for this event, we're going to $5. And so our event is going to happen in January, and I'm going to put registration open today. So yeah, 11:30. Yeah, close registration. Close it Monday, January 1 at 5. So, okay, so we've got our registration timeline. I set it today. We're going to definitely have it open by the time we get this done, but I'm going to demonstrate what that registration piece looks like for your house from the household side. Caps on members and volunteers. So you can restrict the number of volunteers and members. you have to take into account that your cap is also going to include your test people. Now granted, you're not testing in your actual county. I don't recommend that, but for the most part, the lion's share of your events aren't going to have a cap. You may have an event where you need to set a minimum age or a maximum age of attendees, which you can do. I would definitely do, if you're going to need to do an age restriction, go off of age, not age and grade, because then you get into the nuances of the 4-H year and how that falls into factoring in the 4-H age on top of what grade they are in. So sometimes that can cancel out more folks than intended. You already have an age parameter as of January 1 of 2024. Have that 4-H year work for you. So in this instance, where registrations are concerned, less is more. You can also restrict by project type. So if you're doing a clinic, maybe you want to target that down to just livestock folks, or maybe you're doing an event, you're having a demonstration event for your shooting sports folks, you can restrict by project type. So you just make sure you select the appropriate projects. That would mean that they have to be enrolled in that project. Same with the volunteers if you're doing a dual event on that front. Manual approval required. So that means we have to go through one by one. You can also do pay after approval, send registration email after payment. So you have a lot of different options once you check that manual approval button. So we're going to do that. We don't want them to pay after approval. We want them to pay to engage on that. And this is a short-term special interest event. If you have an event where you're doing payments, you can set an event index. You can, and actually here, once your event is published, then you will have your external registration link generate. And that will populate here. And then again, as with the non-registration events, you can add support materials. So you need to upload on this section, again, do a PDF. So once we got this initial information in there, we're going to go ahead and click save as draft, just to save. I know it's a little annoying. It kicks you out and you have to come back in to edit, but I'm a fan of saving. Over saving is a good thing. Okay, so participant registration field. So you'll notice here, we've got volunteers in here. Once you build your registration fields, you can copy your registration fields, and that will move those down for volunteer. You just got to make sure if you're going to do that, that the verbiage and the line of questioning is suitable for an adult. So the first step is to add your category. So typically you'll have a common header, something along the lines of participant information. So we've already added in, we already have what we can pull from the enrollment side, their name, their demographic information. We have their health information. And so in the registration documents section, we'll touch on that as far as, okay, we're confirming the waivers. We're going to confirm your health information, but do we know who's bringing the children to this particular event? So this is a pretty common question for an event. So we'll have participant information. So you just start with a broader category. And so then you have the option to add your field. So this is, you could think of your broader categories. Common areas would be participant information, health information. Maybe you need to have a separate section for allergies. If you're doing an overnight camp, you would certainly have you would certainly have those last two in that, or even on a day camp event, but you would typically also have a section where permission to administer over-the-counter meds, or administering prescription medication. So something for your camp nurse to reference. And then it makes it a little bit easier to pull out in reports. But so for this, we're going to do participant information. And we just want to know who is bringing you to the event. So who is bringing your child to this event? And so this one, it will be just a general text box. And so that's how it will preview. So we have participant information, who's bringing your child to the event, and close. And then we want to know who has permission to pick your child up after the event. And sometimes you need to have multiple parents. You need to the ability to identify different individuals. Maybe the child's going to another family's home after the event. There's a lot of different things that tend to happen with transportation and kids. So on this one, you could do another set of text. So So who has permission to pick up your child? Please include first name and last name of the individual. So disclose who those individuals are. And then if you wanted are there any changes to your child's health or allergy information since child age? And so on this one, I'm going to do a single select. So are there any changes to your child's health or allergy information since you enrolled? So this will be a single select. So that will be a yes or no. And you can change who this, on some of your fields, you can change who the field is visible to, internal, external, or both. We want that visible to both. Actually just visible to internal. And no. And so we have a single select there, and then we have the option, okay, if yes, please specify. So on a single select, on a yes or no, I like to also add it if there's like, okay, if there is a yes, then we need a way of capturing that information. So that will go text, and this field is visible based on another field. So we want to check the box. The field is visible based on their changes, and that value is yes. Yes, there are changes, and we want that to be required. If there is a change to health or allergy information, then we absolutely need to know what that change or changes are. Oh, that's an example where it didn't save. It's out. There's an update. Okay. field first since it's being. Once you add the field, you can edit it in. Edit in the numbers. So then. So you notice, okay, so we got the preview. If we have no, then that specifying detail doesn't show up. But if we have the yes, okay, if yes, please specify in detail. And wow. Okay. Change this just to show. So another example on your line of questioning, I changed that to external participants. So what we're going to do to this, add in, is your child in 4-H? And so we're going to do this as a single select. We want that visible to both. So once you add your fields, it makes, you can drag and drop your order of questioning. And you can set what questions are required. But for this, who is your child in 4-H, yes or no? So we're going to say yes. No. Okay. And then we're going to go. I don't want to add that in as an option. Okay. If your child is in 4-H, yes or no. So then if no, then we need to add in the line of question for the external participant. So I'm going to add that as a separate category, and we can make that visible only to the external. Actually, keep that. Participant, okay. Please provide following information for your child. Go to. If you get that when you're trying to move your fields, just let the system come back to you. Sometimes there's an like I'm waiting on an update, but sometimes it'll give you a red mark and won't let you reorder the fields. But you just got to wait until it comes to blue for that reordering to work. So we're going to capture date, birth date, And then I don't know other demographic information. Let's see. Urgency. So save that. Let's draft. Oh, got a line question here.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's a character length or word count limitation on what we put in our text fields.
In the general body here of the event description or in the
Registration form itself.
in the form itself. I haven't timed that or maxed that out yet. That's a great question, but I try not to go super long. That being said, some of the registration fields can be kind of wordy, but I would try to keep that as succinct as possible, just to prevent the characters from wrapping and makes it a little bit cleaner on the reports end. But great question. So okay, we got basic information, and then we also, for an external participant, what is your t-shirt size? So multi-select, we ask typically in the enrollment side t-shirt size, but if you have external participants, you can either have it as a text field, or you can do multi-select if you want to be nice and give them a drop-down menu, but we'll just do a text field for that and visible to external. All right. All right, so got the field set. We're going to copy participant fields and edit. Updating this information to capture for volunteer. But for the volunteer, we're going to ask, okay, are you transporting children to this event? We need to add our options, yes or no. It's just demonstration. Um. List. Okay. Review. All right, and save that. Okay, so then we got registration documents. So, how we handle external participants for the waivers, we're gonna do a waiver confirmation, and so selecting waiver to confirm, code of conduct. Drag. Okay, so we've got, we're gonna do a confirmation code of conduct, the media release and the health form. And then for the volunteers, we can copy those. Wait. Got a volunteer code of conduct. I want to override that with the participant waivers. Waiver confirmation or media release. So on external participants, they don't fill that information, or they will not have this on file. So for 4-H participants, they're confirming. For external participants, they will need to fill the information out. So that's how we can get the necessary information for those external participants. So we're going to go ahead, and since I got waivers in there, I'm going to save that again. And then payment adjustments. So let's say we have $5. 4-H. Scholarship. We're doing a 4-H scholarship. Oh, $8.
So Erica, are you entering this as something that would be a discount to those who are enrolled 4-Hers?
Yes.
And if so, it says negative values indicate a discount while positive values indicate a price increase.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Great catch. Save it first. Apply. All right, so that'll give a $5 discount to any youth that register that are 4-H participants. So let's say we had a generous donor come in, provided benefit, and So that'll show up. I'll give them a free registration amount for that, for this particular event. And then last part is adding our email messages. So So on your messages, club member registration submitted. And correspondence for volunteer. Oh. Okay. Got your email messages. If we need to identify an additional person and specify that Eric or that individual's email address. And review everything. Double check your parameters. And so what we're going to do, we're going to publish the event. And then you can see here registration link for non-ZSuite participants. So we're going to copy that registration link and make sure. You get that posted in here. So insert that for your external participants. Update the event. So when we go to the calendar, registration. So there's the event we just did. So we're in 4-H, we can register, but as an external participant, we here. Stop sharing. So I can open up a new window here. Make sure I get. So what I did is I just put that event registration that we did. I logged out of ZSuite, copied and pasted that external registration link into a new window. And then you'll see here we got 3 different tabs, if you will. So it breaks it down into event information, registration closes January 1. We have general information and registrant information. So can't advance until we get everything done, but we gotta go ahead and register. Click next. And then we go right into code of conduct. External participants, so we got to do all the health and allergy information. Lastly, the waiver. And so with having the confirmation on, especially on the waivers, that saves so much time for y'all. So there's checkout. Yep. And person. You're not having to rebuild all of that verbiage. Now I'm going to hop into, let me hop into a different household here. Again, if you're on the 4-H side, as you're working through your families, they have to be in the primary account to register for events. If there are age parameters, the system will check for that and it won't advertise, but if it's open to volunteers, or if there's a household member that's eligible, then these events will start showing. So we're gonna look for 2023. Lead in. Go. So now we have an option, register now. And Sam is a volunteer, so it acknowledges Sam. And this line of questioning goes along a little bit quicker than the first one. We're just confirming. So notice the fields for when they enrolled carry forward. And we're confirming. And we got one more consent component. And submit registration. All right, so Sam got submitting credit card for that. And then we're gonna hop into different household. So I can show you what it looks like on the youth side. Go, register now. So we have Sam and Sally. Oh, I gotta switch my phone. Sam's a volunteer, Sally's club member. Okay, so I probably should, I might have been operator in line of questioning for Sally. Need to restrict that to. So. And then with the youth, they're confirming. So we have their waivers. From enrollment, last one. And submit registration. And we're done for this household. Yes, good. And
So Erica, did it charge your 4-H member even though you had that $5 discount?
that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Um. I don't know why it changed.
And I do have a payment question while we're talking about that. So there was the button about online payments or not. And you know, we oftentimes have a mixture of payments, like where we might want them to pay some online, but perhaps the remainder gets paid in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so a split piece. I would disable online payments only if they're gonna have
Okay.
a partial payment component like that. So with Sally, it recognized that, it moved her automatically pending approval, but let me go back into that household. Yeah, it just moved it automatically to pending approval. I thought there was gonna be a checkout thing, because I had checked out, but okay, so it recognized Sally's payment adjustment, so that's why she isn't being charged, and she moved automatically to pending approval, and then we have that manual component there, and then Sam is submit and pay later in person, so that fee adjustment did work. Take a look at what's coming in here for chat. Okay, so great
Can I ask-
question. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna ask, before you move to that team registration question, on that area where it said cap for club members, number of club members, is that strictly related to capping the number of 4-H members, or is that the area where if I have a camp where I am allowing registrations from both 4-H members and non-4-H members, is that cap for club member numbers where I would put a cap, even though there's going to be non-members and 4-H members registering? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go back. The cap is if it's opening up to external participants, then it would be cap on youth as a whole. Let me verify that though.
Okay,
just
because
to be on the
I
safe
know that
side.
we do have camps where we do put a limit on the camp, and we do allow both members and non-members. So that's why I wanted to kind of clarify that.
I believe it's all. I'm verifying that with the development team just to be on the safe side.
Thank you.
Yep. So in order for external participants to see about the event, that event would need to be advertised in your community newsletter. So, and then, or any public advertising that you do along with that external event registration link. The calendar and the functionality that you see like on the events dashboard and whatnot is internal to 4-H participants, if that makes sense. So you would need to do outside advertising or flyers to get that external event registration link out. You could also send email information out if you maybe have an email list for broader public members, or maybe you have a list of folks that have periodically engaged in 4-H events, but maybe aren't in 4-H. You could do a targeted email to those folks. And I did get confirmation that cap is counting in internal and external participants. So, for registering a team, so there isn't a way for like a coach to do a bulk registration, but how programs have addressed that is making a team category and then, okay, who is your team coach? Who are your team members? Or, you know, restricting that line of questioning just to the volunteer. Please identify the youth that are on your team. There's a couple different ways around that, but for this particular platform, especially if you're doing a 4-H event, like if you're like doing a registration for a judging competition, the impetus or the auspices are that the individuals register themselves. You still have the waiver confirmation. Mom and dad are providing the consent, and then if you have it open up for volunteers, then they can confirm who their team members are, and then you could also have like a youth-centric line of questioning for the members. Okay, are you on a team? Yes or no? And then if yes, please provide the name of your team coach. Couple of little steps on that, but it certainly is doable.
So how that for payment though, because like if we're having one payment from a coach level, we want that team information entered in perhaps by the county agent or the coach.
So what I just said is the individuals are responsible. So you could either, if the coach is paying for everybody, then you could have an individual scholarship apply, or you could do, yeah, you could apply a fee adjustment to the individuals, or instead of having credit card at the time of checkout, since there is going to be a different payment component to that, you could disable online payments and then have those individual registrations submitted, and then the payment would be brought in by the coach anyway. So it would allow for that manual checks and balances.
Hey, Erica, if you put a cap on the number of people that you can take in an event, does like when someone goes in to register, is there the ability for them to see how many spaces are remaining? And is there a wait list? Like if you, let's say your maximum was 15 and somebody's coming in to register and they can see there's 5 spaces remaining, or event full, now on a wait list.
Okay, that brings up a great question. So if you're going to do an event, you know, that is going to result in a waitlist option, instead of setting the cap in this section, you would and instead of designating your fee here, what you can do is in your registration form, add in a section called registration types. So this is going to be full-time youth participant, and get fee-based. So on your option, you make it a paid option field, can limit the number of selections. So if your cap is going to be at, let's say for this event, 75, and you can add a wait list option. So this will give them a rundown of how many slots are left, and then it also adds the ability to add in a wait list registration option, and then all of the line of questioning, all of the waiver documentation, all of that information is captured. So if the spots come available, it's much easier to promote somebody when you do that pay option. And then once that fills up, then you can promote individuals as those spaces come available. So that was a great question.
Thank you.
See if I've got everything. Okay, so for making events for only staff and volunteers, yes, you can do that. And so back in your event section itself, the boxes that you would check would be just allow volunteer registration. And that should restrict it. We can actually, let's make a confirmation on that. 023 test volunteer event. That's still allowing for Sam and Seth. way to restrict it then would be to set a minimum age of, what is your minimum age for volunteers in Arkansas? Is it 21?
19 for regular volunteers, 21 for state or regional events, and 25 for out-of-state events.
Let's see. I'll double check that with the development team, but I have a feeling that that's the issue. Have to set the minimum age.
On your last page.
Thank you.
And so with that age restriction, then if we were making this also available to outside people, would that?
Yeah, let me double check with the, should be restricting how. All right. Well, I'm here waiting to hear back from the development team on that. Messages. Okay, so club leaders do have the ability to make an event. Basically, and I can show you what that looks like. If they are the approved club volunteer, they get a dedicated section. So Sam is a club volunteer. He is the club volunteer for Crazy Critters. So they have a dedicated sub menu based off of their profile, not on the primary profile, but off of their individual profile. They have a dedicated home screen, so they get a rundown of events. But volunteers can create events, and these events are basically announcing their club meetings, and that these will show up on your calendar as green events, and their calendar tool is very, very limited. They have the ability to add an image, they can name the event, they can provide a description, when it is, the start time and the end time, where the location is, and their contact information. And we have put in a request with the development team for the ability to duplicate that, because the lion's share of what they're going to be announcing on these events will be their club meetings or something that they're doing to engage with their club. Unfortunately, right now they have to enter those in one by one, which makes that a little tedious for them. So, and what that shows up like is they're in green. So they do have that tool. And if they want to add an event, go to events, add an event, and again, just very basic information. You can, you know, if if the location's going to be the same or the description is the same, Control-C, Control-V does allow for copying and pasting. But they do have those dedicated component for that. Any other questions on the club leaders component?
Yes. What if we wanted something that required a registration? Can we, as the office staff, set up just something for a specific club that requires registration?
Yes. Yep. Can certainly do that.
including payment if we needed to. And I'm not sure how the money side of this works, so that's probably a state office staff question, but I'm not.
Yeah.
If this, if we take for our countywide or club events, does that just go into our 4-H activities account
Yes,
from here?
that's my understanding. Yeah. Verify that with Emma, but that is my understanding. Serena, I'm not sure how the state office is handling that non-member component as far as creating accounts. I think they're probably gonna, with having the ability to do an external participant, unless they're gonna be a frequent flyer, they're probably not going to want to have that unaffiliated information in there just because that does impact your ES 237. So that would be certainly a question for Emma to clarify, but you know, if they're, I'm not sure on how they would want to handle that part-time engagement, or maybe they're just a individual at large, because those numbers do count. So they, in the interim, yet to answer your question, yes, they would need to do that consent, reconsent piece. It's simply entering in their name and the date for the respective events that they register for. But to bypass time, I could certainly see the benefit of them, you know, doing that once and having those waivers, you know, affiliated with their enrollment. But typically the individuals that are going to have an account within ZSuite are going to be your full-time 4-H youth or volunteers, just for a cleaner data set.
So are we going back to doing the ES 237 report?
Well, we have a version of that. We are tracking your club numbers as well as group numbers. So it shows up in your report as an ES 237. It's collecting that information. We are also working on a more in-depth annual report that has a little bit more meat and potatoes and useful data, but so many states are used to and anymore needing that information for different reporting components, that report has you know, basically been brought forward, and it's available at the county and at state level.
Erica, love it. Like the report that we did, I guess were you doing this on Friday? That I asked for our aims as an agent to like have to know that I have to put those numbers into aims at the end of the year. That was great. I'm loving the ES 237 report in the ZSuite software. My question for our state staff is, are we still doing that? Because we haven't been doing that particular form.
Well, they may not be doing it, but the information is compiling, and from a county level, y'all can pull that at any point. So it's building now. How the state office puts that information forward, or actually, you know, what they're reporting to. I've heard various things as to that the ES 237 no longer is being required, but some states are still collecting the information, still wanting that reporting to happen. And as it stands, like right here now, all of your information numbers are, and what is filled in on the group enrollment, those numbers are being processed and compiled. And so you do have a viable document and report for y'all, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? I know this is a lot of information. There is a dedicated help section with regard to events in the help repository. So when you're in ZSuite, on the left-hand menu, the tab right before you hit log out, there is that help section. It's called events. If you just do a search for events, It does have the steps. And Jake and I are happy to help y'all out if there's a spot that you are working on your event registration forms. Don't hesitate to fire up a chat. We are here to help. Happy to answer any questions y'all may have. And, especially with regard on the payments piece, for any questions that y'all may have on like how that's being processed, specifically for your county events and, the protocols for that, please reach out to Emma on that. And we're happy to help though. However, as far as the building of the form or questions you may have on the logic, on what's visible or not visible to your participants. But I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the great turnout for this. And thank you again so much for all of your engagement through the course of this last month on all these trainings I've been doing. Y'all have been doing a great job. And regardless of the topic, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to support y'all and I'm thrilled to have you all on board.
Thank you, Erica. We appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Erica,
Yeah.
just updated and